You're listening to Truth to Power Live with Dumisani, Washington. Yes, it is Truth to Power Live with Dumisani, Washington. I am your host, Dumisani, Washington. Great to be with you on this Sunday, July 21st, 2024, broadcasting out of New York City on the WNEW HD3 FM 102.7. How you doing, New York? You can also stream it directly from our website, ttplive.com. That's ttplive.com. You can click on Listen Live, or you can also, and you might be already checking it out on YouTube, on Rumble. Those pages are brand new, only a couple of subscribers on it right now, but you could help us out. Go to the Rumble page or the YouTube page for Truth to Power Live. I believe the address is like TTP2 on both of those. You can find that on YouTube and Rumble. But also we're on X. We are streaming on LinkedIn. We are streaming on Instagram, I believe. And I said this last week, my apologies, our crew, it's been crazy, but the podcast, they should be on Podbeam and all the podcast platforms this week. I thought it was going to be on last week. My apologies, this week. And been traveling quite a bit as well as of late. Some of it in my ministry role as a pastor, some of it in my role as the founder and the CEO of the Institute for Black Solidarity with Israel. But again, welcome wherever you're joining us from. On this show, we talk about the Bible, music, politics, culture, the Black American community, current events, geopolitics, Israel, Africa, marriage, family, education, and everything in between. We have a special treat for you on today. I mentioned last week that we were going to have a special guest. Our guest was not able to join us because they had to attend to a couple of other things that were kind of some emergencies. So they weren't able to be with us, but they are in studio this week. So on the second segment, I will introduce the amazing guest, and we're going to talk about some family stuff, parent stuff, get into some stuff here on a segment that I'm gonna be calling going forward, Dear Young People. I'm going to talk to the young people here, and everybody. We could talk to everybody, but yes, we want to do that. There's a lot going on. This show, again, covers a wide array of things. And if you notice there, as we've said before, and I just said again about politics, geopolitics, and I would be remiss if we didn't mention here the attempted assassination of Donald Trump. The RNC convention just ended on Thursday night, I believe it was when Trump delivered his keynote address. We didn't get a chance to see all of it, been moving around and kind of traveling from place to place, but caught snippets of it. I do want to say just one comment that I did see, and I posted it on my Twitter. I'm on my Twitter and my X and Instagram. The comment that Donald Trump made about the hostages, and my comment after that was, "This is how it's done, ladies and gentlemen." There are some pushback on there. Oh, Trump's a liar. And Trump's the point that I'm making is that you have to, at the very least, show strength. There are some 100 hostages that Hamas still has in Gaza. And I believe it's about 6 of those hostages are American citizens as well. We hear almost nothing about those hostages in the media. We hear almost nothing about those hostages, even where the White House is concerned in their briefings. So that Donald Trump brought that to the fore and then threatened Hamas with retaliatory measures if they don't release our hostages. You can call that bluster if you want to. It's still better than what's happening now, which is virtually nothing where it comes to those hostages. Don't let me get started on the whole how the Trump administration signed or put into law the Taylor Force Act, which cut funding to the Palestinian terror, put those caveats on there that they could not use the hundreds of millions of dollars given by the United States. If they were going to use it for the purpose of paying martyrs, those types of things, we can. We're going to have probably a separate segment and show about some of those things. So I did want to make that comment. But in terms of the attempted assassination, look, it was evil, wrong, and it's probably what's compounding the evil is that there seems to be a cover-up going on. And this is not a conspiracy. We're saying as of the last couple of days, some of the news things that we caught on there, the Secret Service has admitted that they knew that the shooter was on the roof maybe an hour before. There's video of him kind of meandering about. There's all this very disturbing, some very disturbing information. I remember shortly after, maybe about less than 24 hours after the shooting, Congressman Richie Torres had tweeted out or put on X that there were questions. There needs to be answers, right? This is not a partisan thing. It doesn't matter whether there was an assassination attempt on Donald Trump or on a Joe Biden or whoever the Democrats may select to be the nominee. If it's not Biden, because I believe their convention starts today. It starts today, Sunday, or does it start on Monday? I'll double check and see. Again, I'm getting caught up. I'm not as briefed on it as I need to be, but I'm not really unpacking all those things on today. I'm just making some general statements as an American citizen. When it becomes open season on our political leaders, I don't care, religious leaders, whoever they are, that's dangerous for everyone. Just like the rabid anti-Semitism on our college campuses that led up to before the summer break after the whole Hamas invasion and all that whole, it's been really, really ugly. Jews have been attacked. A couple have been killed. So once that gets released, if you are a citizen of this country and you believe that everyone has the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, I don't care if you're Democrat, Republican, black, white, male, female, whoever you are, if you are okay with people being physically attacked or even killed for their political positions or their religion or their ethnicity, something's wrong with you and you're not really living, at least in your brain, in the free country that you think that we are. Or if you're okay, again, with people being snuffed out. This is just, I'm not going to name names because I don't want to get into that deeper into that topic here, but let me say this. For even those intellectuals and leaders and responsible people of the community who are advocating, who have been advocating for the killing of Donald Trump because Trump, how are you not living in a totalitarian regime if you are advocating for people to be killed that you don't agree with? And just calling someone Nazi, Hitler all over again doesn't make it so. And we're in a really, really bad place in our nation right now. And prayer is required and reflection and cooler heads and mature grown-ups in the room. That's just not a good thing. So thankful that Donald Trump was not killed. We'd have a very different situation going on here right now. And as a pastor and a leader, just praying that leading up to the rest of this election season, that there is prayerfully a peaceful transfer of power, or even if Biden wins the election and he continues on with what I think is a disastrous presidency, but let it be at the polls, right? Let it not be some sort of violent anything, right? That any of this happening, this just, boy. All right, so I wanted to mention that. Like I said, I've been traveling. And I have been traveling. One place I want to give a shout out to Ashira Solomon. Shout out to Ashira. The other day, last Wednesday, I can't remember days, flew down to Miami and had an opportunity to record a segment of Ashira's called the Black Jewish Podcast. Go to Rumble. You can subscribe to it. You can find her also on X. Ashira Solomon, wonderful young lady. Actually met her back in the days in California when I was there. Our congregation, our church, Congregation of Zion, her family had come and visited. We worshiped together. And so that's when I was first introduced to Ashira. We got reconnected when I was in Jerusalem because she had actually moved to Jerusalem, moved to Israel a couple of years ago, I believe, Ashira. And so I saw her. It was a random thing, right? I was doing some work with one of our partners with the Institute for Black Solidarity with Israel. One of our partners is the Jerusalem Center for Public Affairs. My colleague and I, Chlas Machomole, I'm saying it the right way. He is South African. He and I both met there to do some work with JCPA. And we were at the Machne Yehuda market there, kind of recording a couple of segments and talking. And next thing you know, one young lady, this African-American young lady, is walking by. And Jerusalem and Israel is both as multi-ethnic as you could find in any other city. But she looked familiar. And our eyes met, and I couldn't remember her name at first. And she said, Pastor Dumisani. I said, tell me, and she said, sure. And we started talking. So yeah, I remembered her from California, and we connected there. She's doing amazing work, young ladies in different fields. But she began to more and more use her powerful voice in advocating for Israel, strong Black-Jewish relations, and everything. And so she's in Miami for now, and I went down there to record the podcast. We talked for almost 3 hours. She did say that. I mean, I can talk, but she kept asking questions. What was funny about the recording, the podcast. It'll be released in several weeks, probably. Make sure you subscribe and show her some love. It was really funny, and I didn't tell her this. Ashira, I'm saying this now. If you're watching this, she's asking questions, and I'm talking and asking questions, and it looks to me, I mean, not in a negative way. She looked like, we were kind of winding down. Let me say it that way. That maybe it's the last couple of questions. I was fine, but I was wondering to myself, is she getting a little tired? And we're probably going to wrap it up. I'm sure she's probably a little tired right now. And then she would ask another question. That I bet. I'm here to record, and we got done. Asked the producer, how long's it been? 2 hours and 38 minutes or something like that. So there's a very long segment that we record. I don't know how much of it will actually make it to the thing. I think she was saying, I record everything. I keep everything. So once that's posted, it'll be pretty long. My apologies in advance for being this long. But again, shout out to Ashira. And yeah, I want you to go and check that out. All right. In our next segment, we're going to talk Dear Young People. And again, have an amazing guest for us. I've been keeping you in suspense, but you'll see in a moment. Coming up on this break right now. Check this out, and we'll be right back with our special guest and our next segment, Dear Young People.
Hey, baseball fans, looking for unique and inspiring experience? Visit the Yogi Berra Museum and Learning Center in Little Falls, New Jersey. Dive into the legacy of one of baseball's greatest legends, Yogi Berra. Explore his 10 World Series championships, personal memorabilia, and countless inspiring stories. Discover interactive exhibits, educational programs, and special events for all fans of all ages. Perfect for families, school trips, and anyone who loves the game. Come celebrate the life and career of Yogi Berra at the Yogi Berra Museum. For more info and tickets, visit yogiberramuseum.org. Don't miss out on this grand slam of an experience.
Are you ready to take charge of your health and well-being? UK Health Radio is your ultimate digital destination for cutting-edge health information and inspiration. At UK Health Radio, we know that good health is not merely the absence of disease, but a state of complete physical, mental, and emotional well-being. Tune in to our wide range of expert-led shows where renowned health professionals share about the latest research, practical tips, and inspiring stories that will motivate you to live your healthiest life. Don't settle for anything less than vibrant health. Tune in to ukhealthradio.com, the world's #1 talk health radio and podcast platform.
You're listening to Truth to Power Live with Dumisani, Washington.
All right, everyone. As promised, special guest joining us for the first time. Joining us for the first time, and also for the first time in the 6-episode history of Truth to Power Live, Dumisani, Washington, Mrs. Valerie Washington, my wife of 36 years. Hi, baby.
Hello.
We are here to talk about parenting and a couple other things, whatever else we want to talk about. As a matter of fact, we've been traveling quite a bit. I just got back from, where did I just get back from?
Florida.
I was in Florida. I was in Miami, like I was saying before. And then we'll be on this Sunday. I'm having to do just too many different things. But as I said before, I'll say it again. Join me in the Atlanta area, Saturday, July the 27th. Give a shout out to Pastor Matrilla Hall out there at Faith to Grace Ministry. So in our segment here, as we've said before, we talk about these different subjects as I reminded you about on Truth to Power Live. Again, go to ttplive.com, ttplive.com. I wanted to take a moment and introduce this segment. It's going to probably eventually be called Dear Young People or Dear Young Parents, because among the many things that we do in our home and our family and our ministry, not just because we have a big family and everything, but that's always been something on our hearts. Even when we were a younger couple, newly married couple, family was always something that was very important to us. And as we grew, as our family grew, as our different spheres of influence and ministry grew, we found that we spent a lot of time talking to young parents.
Yes.
And so, Valerie, I'm going to give it over to you so we can talk a little bit. One of the scriptures I'll share here now, we'll put it on the screen too. The producers will help me. Psalm 127, English Standard Version, verse 3. Behold, children are a heritage from the Lord. The fruit of the womb, a reward. Like arrows in the hands of a warrior are the children of one's youth. Blessed is the man who fills his quiver with them. He shall not be put to shame when he speaks with his enemies in the gate. So let me ask you, Valerie, right off the bat, again, wife of 36 years, mother of 6 children, amazing mother, 6 children, amazing mother, grandmother, or gogo, the Zulu phrase of 3 children. What would you say, based first and foremost on this scripture, children being a heritage or a gift from God, is the most common misnomer or thing that's probably most misunderstood where it comes to children or parenting children, raising children? What do you think is one of the most common misunderstood factors?
I think that most people think, and I'm thinking this is what you're asking. I think that one of the things that people don't consider, or if they ever even know the scripture, well, let me put it this way. People think that children are a burden. And, because they cost money, which they do, and, it takes time, and that's true too. But the heritage part, which is what people don't consider, is all that money. It's an investment. Having children, raising children, not just having children, raising children is an investment, like real estate or stocks. And, you expect it. Children are like Bitcoin. You expect it to give you a dividend at some point. It's not just something that's taken from you. When you invest your money in something, you take your money and you put it there for a certain period of time, right? And you expect it to grow and to pay you back. Well, children are like that by times 100, because you're taking not just your time, your money, but your time, your emotions. There's a lot of self-reflection that happens in parenthood. All these are investments that you're making. You're making these investments, and at some point, this is going to come back. So we were just talking about this. We were watching the show that we were watching, that a lot of parents don't see, I shouldn't say a lot of parents, some parents don't see their children's success as their own success. But it is. If I raise my children, I spend my resources and everything raising my children properly, and they all become successful people. They become parents themselves. They become business owners. They become ministry leaders, all the things that I would be proud of, right? Lawyers, doctors, whatever. People that contribute to society, positively to society. That's a success. And that's my success. That's our success. That's something I can point to and say, I did that. I made that happen. I, put my time in, and this is my return. This is my dividend. And after I'm gone, they will still be my children. They will still be referred to as our children. Those are the Washington kids, and they did this. And yeah, their father was Dumisani and their mother was Valerie. And I live on through the time and resources that I invested in my children.
It's funny, well, it's so many powerful things you touched on there, and I'll come back to the progeny part. Well, if we can, in our segment here again, ttplive.com. Go to ttplive.com. You can be listening to us live, or you can check out the streaming and everything. You talked about both the investment that the parent makes in the child, whether it be money, whether it be time, emotions, all of those things. You're pouring into the child, you're raising the child, you're shaping their character and everything. But you also talked about then the child becoming a productive member of society, and people, it paying dividends, not just to the parents, obviously to the child, the child's path, everything, but you spoke more communally, like the child being this positive force in the community. Right. And I'm not meaning just the Black community, I'm talking about the nation, the world. Then they're all reaping the benefits. So you're saying that everybody else is reaping the benefits from a parent who raised their child.
Yes, and it's the ultimate give back, and you're welcome, everyone, because we have raised 6 wonderful children who are contributing members to society. They have jobs, they give back, they some of them are raising their own children to be good, productive human beings that positively affect society, and it goes on. So then our children, once they all have their children are raised, then there's even more great people in the world. And then when they, have children and their children are raised, there's even more great people. It's like, it's shifting the balance, if you will. If you see a lot of evil in the world, a lot of people see a lot of evil and they say, I can't raise a child in this evil, right? It's terrible. Who would bring a child up in this terrible nation, or this terrible world? But it's the opposite. If you see a lot of evil in the world, then you combat that by bringing good people into the world. You bring these people into the world and you raise them to be the antidote, right? To what's going on, to all the evil. So one of the ways that we're combating evil is by raising more good people to combat the bad people. I don't like to say it like that, but to combat the bad in the world, not just the bad people.
So bringing more light into the world in the midst of all the darkness and everything has to be that. So then you're saying that, and I'm kind of looking at that scripture again, children are an heritage for the Lord. So the other part of the multiple parts that you touched on, one thing is you also mentioned, you talk about the investment in the child, but it paying the dividend to everybody, to the world. Right. But also you talk about living on. It's amazing, and that you and I have talked about this in the past, that the older we get, the more we get concerned with legacy. We've discussed this much in our family, in our home, in our marriage, in our ministries, that we're almost hardwired by God to do a spiritual inventory. Right. So the closer I get to no longer, when I get older and I see that I have less time in front of me than I have behind me, right. One of the things that we naturally do, and this is one of those Dear Young People segments, because you don't think about it as much when you're young, it's as you get older. I think Psalm 90 is when Moshe said, teach us to number our days that we may apply our hearts to wisdom. So to your point, one of the things that we think about, because as we get older particularly, we're thinking about legacy. Right. What am I leaving behind? And that can be money and corporations and all those things, but deeper than that, because we can see that somebody can be very wealthy, which is not a bad thing, wonderful. The Bible says leave an inheritance for your kids. But if it doesn't go beyond that, one of the things that I'm looking for is who's going to be left behind. Right. Who's going to remember me? Who's going to reflect me, my values? If I'm a man of God who preached the word and I love God and I want people to know about the word of God and I wanted that to be reflective in my life, then I'm looking at things like, who am I leaving behind? So what you're saying is that the parenting part of it, all of that hard work when they're young and getting older, is you leaving something behind.
Right. And so we're going to be remembered maybe by the world, but mostly by the children that we raised properly, that the children that we invested in, right? And so when they grow up, even if they marry, if they don't marry, whatever, the things that we taught them will come back to them in life. So then they will do the remembering. They will be the ones that declare our names. They're the ones that are going to say, my father always told me, my mother always did this, or now I understand what my parents, and they're going to be recalling us to the people that they work with, the people that they're married to, their own children, their friends. So their community will remember us because they will be remembering us if we did our jobs right in their community. Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, now it makes sense because why I married her. Because very, very deep. And those of you who are perceptive, you caught it. One of the things you said was that we may be remembered by the world, or you have this, but we will be more readily remembered, I'm saying it that way, by our children. So then what you seem to be saying is that if we're going to leave our mark, it seems as that the priority isn't that, like the cheer song, everybody knows your name. It's not so much that everybody knows Dumisani's name. It's that Dumisani's children know what he left behind for them.
Right.
Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
So then, I'll give this back to you. So then for the parent who gets distracted by his or her own personal legacy to the world, they would be better advised to be concerned about their legacy to their children.
Right, exactly. There are things that we think are important to our children that really aren't. Mm-hmm. And so I had a conversation with our youngest, and we would always lament certain things that we couldn't give them financially, right? And she was we were talking about money and things like that, and come to find out that as I hear people say that, we didn't know we didn't have any money, and she was really saying I didn't really realize, or I wasn't really dwelling on the fact that there was sometimes not money for things, right? It was not, we weren't poor, but we, I mean, you're my husband, so but
you're rough sometimes.
Yes, it was rough sometimes, mm-hmm. And that never bothered them. It never bothered them because there was the time spent and the what resources we did have, we would use on our children, but the time was the most important. The fact that we would sacrifice certain things, sometimes we didn't have because, resources because of time that we spent, meaning I had to exchange, these hours, these money making hours for child rearing hours. And so I gave up the money for the child rearing, and it paid off. My kids didn't even care about the fact that we didn't have the money for this. They appreciated the fact that we were able to spend time and that we were available to them. And so sometimes we get caught up as parents, and I have to give my kids, the latest thing, or I have to, I need to have this size house, and I don't want my kids growing up, in a not so great neighborhood. And, you do want the best neighborhoods and the best surroundings for them, but more importantly is your presence. And though that's what they remember, they can remember, the new car, but I know plenty of kids who had all of that, and that is not important. That's not what's important to them now. What's important to them now is they're on their, well, I won't say that part, but they're struggling in life. And that car that they got when they were 16 means zero to them. They don't even have the car anymore. What they want is some stability, and they didn't get that from their households when they were growing up. So, it's one of those things that we have to, it's another thing that makes it seem hard to be a parent, the money part. But that's not what your child really, really needs from you.
So I want to, TTP Live, Truth to Power Live, Dumisani, Washington.
Truth to Power Live.
You hear on our grandsons at times will have be some of that bumper, some part of the music, part of the announcements on there, everything. And we're showing you, this is one of the pictures from 2015. I think this one is in Stockton. We were in California. This is back almost 14. I think this was 14. So this is about 10 years ago. So all those people are older there, but this is our family there. I want to hone in for a moment on the financial part, because there's so many different aspects, and this is our first time. I know I'm going to have my lovely wife here back again, talk about lots of different things, but I think this parenting one is going to be so crucial, especially for young people. When we say that, we say dear young people, we're not excluding or ignoring older people, grandparents like ourselves or great-grandparents, but we're prioritizing, as my wife used to say in another context, it's not your turn. So we're prioritizing the young people because there's so much chatter out there. We want to be able to, like Valerie was saying, positively contribute. Mm-hmm. So the money part, often what happens, and this has always been the case, but even more so now, we have a struggling economy. And even if the economy is going well, economy is not going well. I mean, the economy can be going great broadly, but you and your own family or house might be struggling in terms of what's going on. And all of us have been in the struggle, right? You understand, you got to put food on the table and everything. So sometimes they're better than others, as we're saying. But back to that part, that many people will exclude themselves from either having children or spending time with children or prioritizing parenting because money. Right. And what you were just saying is that though money is important, yes, it's important. You got to eat. You got to pay the mortgage. You got to pay the rent. You got to put gas in the car. You need a car. All those things are important. Clothes, everything. It is expensive to raise children. That's expensive to do anything that's important that requires lots of resources. However, going back to the Word of God, God doesn't say in Psalm 127, children are a burden to their parents. Right. Work hard and die. That's not. He said if they're inherited a heritage or a gift, that means, as you said originally, that we're pouring into a gift that actually pours into us, right? So it's an investment. It's not just a money hole, a money pit. It's investment. But at the same time, that investment is not just the money. Yes, all that is required, but it also is the time, because that pays back. And it seems like, I'm going to let you take this part here, then the priority can't be the latest, the most expensive $200 shoes. And sometimes that means we don't get all the latest craze and the latest fads that everybody else has, so that we can prioritize the basics that we need, not try to keep up with all of the stuff going around there, so that our focus. Is that what you're saying on there, that part? Yes.
So children are an opportunity to do things the way you wished they could have. Not, I shouldn't say it like that. Children are an opportunity to do it right? And so if you feel like you grew up in a great household, then this is because your parents aren't perfect, right? Because we're people. So this is your opportunity with your children to do even better than your parents did. So those little things that your mom or dad did that you say, well, I would do that different. You can do it different and make an even better child. I always say that each generation is supposed to pass down less issues to their children. If I have 10 issues, my goal is to only pass down 5 of them. I can't, necessarily not pass all 10. Pass 0 down, I should say. But I'm going to try my hardest to eliminate as many. That means I have to do some introspection, but it's my opportunity to get better, and it's my opportunity to make better people. And then they can make better people, and then they can make better people. And then like I said, the money becomes, it's funny because all of our kids, well, almost all of our kids are out of the house, and money's not really an issue for any of them because we taught them other things. We taught them, integrity and things like that. And so they're making names for themselves. And the money that we struggled with while we took the time to raise them is coming more naturally to them. And it's funny because they still don't care about the designer stuff because they didn't have that growing up. But they do understand that, okay, this is a secondary thing. This is not the primary thing. The primary is my time with my kids, and they're making that happen. They're getting both. They're coming into both sides of it. They are getting able to do some things, but even that way, they're not, like I said, they're not prioritizing. So they're not prioritizing the stuff. And so their money is more fluid. If I can say that?
No, it makes complete sense. So, okay, so we're going to come up on a break here in about 2+ minutes. And there's so much else I want to get into. I knew this was going to happen. I mean, I get to talk to her all the time. But, I mean, for some of you, you're meeting my wife for the first time. So let me do this. We're not going to be able to drill down on it, but I have to set this up. The money part, this whole thing, we can talk about that. Finances and, our children and raising them and groceries and that type of thing. And then education is another part, too. We homeschooled our kids, but we're not so much homeschool champions in the sense where school choice, I think the parent has the choice. But you said this in the beginning, and I'm going to just go ahead and we'll close it up with here. You mentioned several times, and this is about the reflection, that all having issues, meaning negative issues, passing them down to the kids, which means that an effective parent, among other things, I'll let you take it, has to be one who's willing to look at him or herself, say something about that, because we know that's probably one of the biggest struggles when it comes to parenting.
Yes. So I'm just going to take me personally. I had to, in each child, because it's different with each child, because your children press different buttons. With each child, I had to, when we would have conflicts or what have you, I would have to look at myself and say, how much of this is me and how much of this is that child? How much of this is Hannah's personality and how much of this is my own issue that I may be having, or are my children asking me for something that I'm unwilling to give? And if I'm unwilling to give that, why? And it gives you a chance to make yourself a better person. So this is also an opportunity to become better. When you have children, the more children you have, hey, the more chances you get to look at yourself and make something change.
Which is why that quiver, happy is a man whose quiver is full of them, as I read in Psalm 127 as we got started. There's been debates about what quiver means. Is it 5 or is it 6? It is multiple kids. I think that often it's around the 5 or the 6 number. Is that God commanding you to have 5, 6 kids? No, it says happy, blessed. I saw a pretty well-known person tweet the other day that they were basically blessed to be the only child. And if you're only child, cool. I mean, there's parents and families who have one child, but mothers and fathers, young parents, and the whole dear young parents, dear young people, dear young couples. Children are a blessing. They are hard work. It's work that can at times be so difficult, frustrating.
Yes.
But there's blessings in midst of it. You hear this from Go-Go. Because yes, anything and anyone that you love has the potential to break your heart.
Right.
If not, then you don't really love them.
Right.
At the same time, that type of risk-taking love pays back dividends that you would not believe. So what you put into it, there's probably no better example of that metaphor or of that saying being true. What you put into it is what you get out of it. Parents, what you pour into your children is what you receive multiple times. And we got to stop it there because I think we're over our time. So thank you, baby, for coming. Hanging out. I know you're busy. You got a lot of stuff to do, but just give it a hand. Go, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for checking this one out. I'll be back with our final segment on Truth to Power Live with Dumisani, Washington. Go to TTP Live for more after this. Hey, if you are a business or a nonprofit and you want to know about purchasing ad time or underwriting whole or part of an episode of Truth to Power Live with Dumisani, Washington, we would love to hear from you. Just email us at info@ttplive.com, info@ttplive.com, Truth to Power Live. And we would love to hear from you, connect with you. Our sales and marketing team has been assembled and they are prepared to offer all types of creative plans for you, whether for your business, again, for your nonprofit, in which we can partner with you and doing this work here together. We, again, love to hear about what you're doing and love to see how we can partner together. info@ttplive.com. Thanks a lot.
You're listening to Truth to Power Live with Dumisani, Washington.
Go to ttplive.com. That's ttplive.com. Truth to Power Live with Dumisani, Washington. Again, special thanks to my baby for joining us. It was short. We got done. She said that was short. Yeah, it was. The segment, that second segment, it's around 22, 23 minutes. But I knew it was going to fly by. I knew we weren't going to be able to get into as much as I would like to. But she will return. Absolutely. She will return. We're going to, as a matter of fact, we'll probably even do some panel stuff with that because we again, on our hearts, it's just something that continues to, the older we get, the more we feel the need to provide as much as we can where these young people, these young parents are concerned, these moms and dads doing this incredible job of raising children, especially in very, very difficult times as we're living now. But again, we want to be able to do that. So again, special thanks to Gogo, to my better half. I want to, in this final segment, I had thought about how I wanted to address that if we weren't going to extend that particular segment, what we're going to do. And I want to talk for a moment about education, both from the Black community perspective, but then also broader as well. I have referenced this. As a matter of fact, depending on when the Black Jewish podcast from Ashira launches, on her podcast, and I've been doing quite a few over the last several weeks in particular, a couple of them I've mentioned. You don't always remember where you said what you said and different conversations and interviews and everything, but I mentioned an article that's on Journal of Free Black Thought. You go to freeblackthought.substack.com if you're not already aware of that. Wonderful resource. Shout out to all the folks out there on the board and the leaders and everything, especially Miss Connie Morgan, who is, I think she on the board. I know she does the editing. She's very, very involved in Free Black Thought. And she also happens to be an Institute for Black Solidarity with Israel ambassador. She's part of our original cohort that did our part of our PEACE initiative. PEACE is an acronym for Plan for Education, Advocacy, and Community Engagement. Connie was one of about 15 African-American young men and women from throughout the country who went as a pilot, did a 9-month intensive with the Institute for Black Solidarity with Israel. Each month got on Zoom and we covered lots of different topics: Israel, Africa, the United Nations, Black and Jewish history, Black history, human rights, Palestinian human rights. We covered about 16 weeks of different material. We worked with our friends and partners with Combat Anti-Semitism, with Jerusalem Center for Public Affairs and others. And we did 2 overseas trips. We went to December 22 was the motherland. June 23 was the Holy Land. We went to South Africa in December 22 and went to Israel in June of 23, just a few months before the tragic events of October the 7th, and had an amazing time. And Connie was a part of that group and is a part of IBSI, and we're so blessed to have her. She wrote a piece. She's written several pieces, and she's written a couple on IBSI Substack as well. You can go to ibsi.substack.com and you can find a couple from her as well. But she wrote a piece almost 2 years ago, August 15th, 2022, entitled "The Quiet Rise of Black Home Educators." The Quiet Rise of Black Home Educators. One of the things that Ballard and I did not get into is the fact that, yes, we have 6 children. They're all grown now. Ballard and I were married in the late 1980s, and our children grew up between the late 80s and the 90s and the early 2000s. They're all obviously adults now. Our oldest will be 35 this fall. And then our youngest this fall will be 24. So they're all grown, doing their thing, living their lives, and we're so blessed to be with them. They're great people. And the thing that blesses me probably the most is the relationship that we're able to have with them now. And they have such love for them. They love their father too. But I love seeing that relationship with Gogo, with my wife, who has, like she said, poured all that sacrifice in, and how it's paying dividends that one could not believe. You'd have to experience. All the grandparents out there, you know what I'm talking about. So the subtitle of Connie's piece is "Black Families Are Leading an Exodus from Public and Private Schools." So again, this is August 2022. It's 2 years old. As a matter of fact, I remember Connie saying to me a couple weeks ago, she said the research that she did, it's very thoroughly researched. You gotta read it if you haven't read it already. freeblackthought.substack.com. And again, the title of the article is "The Quiet Rise of Black Home Educators." Connie basically unpacks in narrative form, but uses data to explain that the largest demographic, or the group by ethnicity, right, just that has the largest percentage of homeschoolers, at least as of the time of the writing this article, 16.1%. Black American families, to the tune of over 16%, homeschool their child, more than any other ethnic demographic. As a matter of fact, I'm going to read that particular article, that particular paragraph. The stereotype, I'm quoting now from Connie's article, the stereotype of homeschoolers as white conservative families doesn't jibe with the data. Before the pandemic, talking about obviously the COVID pandemic of 2020, 41% of homeschoolers were not white. Today, nearly 50% of homeschoolers are ethnic minorities, with both Black and Hispanics ahead of whites in terms of rates of homeschooling within their respective groups. Just over 16% of Black households are now homeschooled, compared to less than 10% of whites. And it says see figure. You can actually, if you on the actual, we won't show the figure here, but you can just check that out. I want you to go to because I want you to go to the article. And then it says, now that so many Black families have been exposed to homeschooling, many are finding it is a natural fit, not just for teaching general academics, but for imparting religious values as well. Now, again, this article was written in 2022. We began homeschooling when our oldest was around 6. So it was around 96 or so. 95, 96 is when we actually began homeschooling. And we homeschooled all 6 of our children through all the way through high school to college. So what we did over a period of time, we would make different adjustments. And at some point, we then made the decision that they were allowed to go to high school if they chose to. And each of them made that decision, themselves, as we helped them. And either went from freshman year through their senior year of high school, or in my son's case, decided to go just junior and senior year of high school, and they all went on to college. And people, if you homeschool about socialization, it's a tongue in cheek, but for the parents, don't freak out about that. If you do homeschool, if you choose to do that, we recommend that you get other resources and everything. There's different charters that may be available in your area, co-ops and things. And there's all kinds of activities in which you can enroll your child, in which he or she's with other kids, doing other activities, everything. Our kids, I'm a musician, so we actually started a music program for them that became a music school, the Zion Academy of Music, with eventually hundreds of students over a period of time, and different fields, different instruments and those types of things. It just happened from us starting that with our kids. But our kids were enrolled in things like foreign language classes in this other city with this cohort here, and a sports thing over here, and they had time with other kids and all of those things. But it was the academics, but Connie makes the comment here, religious values as well. One of the decisions that Valerie made, and she will probably share more on this when we have her back on another segment of Dear Young People. This wasn't the only one, but I want to share this particular story. I want to be very clear. The issue of race and ethnicity in the United States of America has been so tortured in so many different ways. In other words, it's used politically in the most heinous of ways. It has caused much devastating effect, and being used politically, which is in a fraudulent way. And instead of having real discussions about whether it's discrimination, hatred, whether it's about implementation of equal access as opposed to equal outcomes, and those can be complex conversations. There's a lot of passion on a lot of different sides. And in the days of DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, the whole anti-racist stuff with the Ibrahim X Kendi and wherever he may be right now, and I know there's some big blow up in terms of controversy. And the other young lady Robin DiAngelo, I believe I'm saying her name correctly, just, well, in my opinion, charlatans. Just, they're not the data, there's not so much discussions around data as it is around narrative. So it could be a crazy discussion. All that having been said, we have to, with honesty, deal with real issues. Now I'm going to say this particularly to our parents. Let me talk to the parents. Of ethnicity, of whether it's discrimination, of coming together, of differences, real, what I call authentic diversity, right? The different people in the room of different ethnic backgrounds, and maybe English is their second, third language. In a multi-ethnic world like the United States of America, which is a beautiful thing, there are situations that have to be navigated for people are different, and yes, this happens. And I'm trying to couch this a certain way. My wife, who was the primary homeschool person, let me back up before homeschool. Every child is homeschooled to a certain degree before they even start school. Why? A child learns his colors, his numbers, his letters, how to read, how to sound, he learns that when he's starting usually around 2 years old, right? Different ages are different ones, some younger, some older. Language skills and things. And the child is learning those primarily from their parent or guardians. Whoever the people are raising that child is learning how to communicate, learning temperament. The child is learning values. These things are being communicated to the child 24/7, which is again why the job of parenting can be so demanding, right? And God also promises in His Word that He'll help those parents, right? If you do it this way, I'm going to help you. If you consider my word, right? You trust in the Lord all your heart, lean not to your own understanding. All your ways acknowledge Him; He'll direct your paths. So, and children are an inheritance from the Lord, heritage from the Lord. My wife and my son is our second oldest. Sarah, who's our the oldest, fast everything. She learned her letters, and she wasn't even 1 year old, and she knew all her alphabet and could start to sound words and stuff. And she would blow people away. She's very quick. So she was very exceptionally advanced. Joshua, our second, wasn't as fast as Sarah. Every bit as intelligent, but wasn't as fast. So he was slower, and with the development of, letters, numbers. Yeah, he got those things, but I'm doing this over here. One day, I don't remember how old he was. And again, Valerie will tell the story much more effective than me, but if I can bottom line it here, she was helping him with his writing, and he wasn't really trying. She would say, make this letter. He would kind of make the letter. Now, it was something he was able to do, although he was still acquiring the skill. He had done some others. And so clearly she as his teacher, and because it wasn't even an official homeschool thing, it was just what parents do with their kids when their kids are learning stuff. Like, I want to draw, I want to write, is this how you spell cat? And that happens before, traditional school age, which would be like kindergarten, which is why by the time a child gets to kindergarten, he or she should be able to demonstrate some of these basic skills in terms of reading certain words, recognizing letters. If they get there behind, then they're already at a deficit. They're going to have to catch up with the other kids in the class. So kids are learning this as they're watching and listening. She told Joshua, make this letter. And maybe and see. But it wasn't that it was so difficult. It was that his heart wasn't in it because he wanted to go outside. For him, lesson time was over. But for his mom, we weren't quite done yet. Make this letter. And so, without saying exactly how she said what she said, let me just say she said it more sternly, and added with that there were going to be some other types of incentives given. Now, for those who go, why is this? That's so mean. That's why we're going to do our Dear Young Parents, Dear Young People thing. Valerie understood in a way that only a parent could understand a child. A parent intimately engaged with the child. That the disconnect between what she was telling her son to do and what he was doing wasn't his lack of understanding of it, wasn't because the skill was too deep, it was too far advanced from where he was. The clear reason as to why he was not doing what she said, make this letter, is because he didn't want to. He didn't want to do it. So he, in his 3-year-old mind, 4-year, however old he was, he figured that if he just kind of sloppily threw at it, he figured that she was going to go, oh, boy, go outside and play. Or, oh, man, I mean, again, the Bible says that foolishness is bound up in the heart of a child. It's some other parts of that scripture as well. She basically got stern with him because she discerned that he was capable but unwilling. So she had to push past that and said, look, do this. And a couple other things. And you know what? Magic. Bing! He made the letter. Perfect. Bing! She went. She says one of the factors in her deciding to homeschool, now stay with me, especially this Black young male, was that she knew that at the very least in the school district where we lived, Stockton, California, and shout out to Stockton, much love, but where we live, we can't speak for other people's school district, that if he had the wrong teacher, which demographically are often predominantly white female, stay with me. I'm not saying there's something wrong with white teachers. That's not what I'm saying. I'm talking cultural now. I'm not talking about skin color. Now I'm talking culturally. That what history has proven over a longer period of time is that the type of child who gets tracked in systems, public and sometimes private, but public systems especially, are children who don't demonstrate a certain amount of proficiency and are from a minority ethnic group. Often what happens is that for the child who is Black or Latino, especially, it happens to white kids too. Yes, white kids can also be tracked or sometimes pigeonholed based on something that the teacher is saying. And in fairness to a teacher, beyond the ethnic, I'm not about the ethnic part, for fairness to a teacher who does track a Black, white, Hispanic student or whatever, if they have 30 other students in the room, they don't have time to really do a deep dive on why this student isn't doing this better, regardless of the teacher's sentiments and passion around their work. They can only give so much time. Valerie said to herself, especially as a Black little boy who's very cute, he's a social butterfly, right? He loves people. Sarah's more of an introvert like me. Joshua was more of an extrovert like his mom, but even more so than that. He's like, hey, how you doing? Joshua was the type of kid would be walking around as a toddler. If we're in a shopping mall, if he met a family that he liked, he would grab a little kid's hand and go walking off with them. It's like, well, hey, man, come back. He was that kind of kid. Hey, how you doing? Hey, how you doing? That was always how he's been. Of course, he's going to be 34 in September. He's like that now. Amazing musician, wonderful leader, and everybody loves Joshua. That he's been like that from a little kid. Valerie said when he was little, and she came to that, she was already thinking about it in the homeschooling, and when she had to basically lean into his little life and make him make that letter, she said the average teacher would have let him not do it. It would have sent the message to him that when you don't want to do it, you don't have to do it. Would have pat him on his little head, sent him to the can't do it kids table, right? Especially as a Black male. And he would have seen that reverberated. And so he would have found himself with other people who, for whatever reason, could not or would not do the work required. And he would find, and we would find, that the standard wouldn't stay and Joshua would be encouraged to meet it. The standard would just get lowered for a good old nice little Black kid, Joshua. She said, the system would destroy my son. He would never be able, she said, I am not sending. That wasn't her only final thing. There's more to it than that. There really is. But that was one of the many stories. Connie, in her piece, doesn't profile my wife. We didn't know Connie at that time. She didn't have to. But she talks about the issue of school choice, particularly among African Americans. I wrote a piece for Africa Israel Weekly, which is the IBSI Substack, ibsi.substack.com, entitled Why School Choice May Help Save the U.S.-Israel Relationship. And I actually cite Connie's piece in my piece. That's not the only time I've cited Connie's piece. As a matter of fact, I'm going to see here. I'm checking something, and producer, you guys can help me. I at some point, yes. Thank you. So, and you'll see that there. But yes, I cite Connie's piece. I've cited Connie's piece multiple times, and then for those in terms of this, so they can see, although this right here, you'll see this article here. Producer, if you can help me. New study shows African American families overwhelmingly want a choice in their children's public school, regardless of geographic boundaries. This piece, February 2021. So this piece isn't just about homeschools; it's about school choice. This has always been the case, ladies and gentlemen. The misnomer that school choice is a white issue has always been just that, a misnomer. Black families, by and large, have always been very concerned about their child receiving the best education. That goes back to post-slavery, in terms of, like Thomas Sowell, the great economist, had said, the economic historian said the black community post-slavery went from 0% literacy to almost 50% literacy in less than 50 years, something that had really never even happened before. They said it was remarkable. It was amazing. So this quest for knowledge and information. And so this has always been the case. So I want to just share that. I know we're going to get to that some more too, in terms of family and dear young people. And again, this part of it had to do with black families, but it is a broader issue as well. So yes, and Connie, shout out to you for that piece. I know she's going to be updating it. She said now 2 years later. What is it? Has it gone up? Is there even more percentage that are homeschooling, black families that are homeschooling their kids? Is it less? Is it around the same? And what are some of the other factors? So please go and check those pieces out if you can, both on Connie, on the Free Black Thought, and on also Africa Israel Weekly. All right. I think I'm going to have to get out of here because we're just about out of time. But again, special thanks to my boo, to my baby, Valerie, joining us. And again, you will be hearing more from her in the near future. Looking forward to that, right? So again, ttplive.com. Check it out, ttplive.com. If you missed the live streaming, you can check out on, again, our other platforms. And we'd love to hear from you as well. You go to info@ttplive.com. Shoot us an email. One of these is going to be a call-in show as well, and also some comments from the other social media platforms. Everything, we'd love to do that, interact with you. But again, great being with you. So glad that you could join us. Once again, ttplive.com for more information. Everybody have a great week. See you later.
Truth to Power Live with Dumisani.